Hello, 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 and welcome. Today, I want to share a little bit of my story. I've been asked recently by several people, like, hey, girl, what's your story? and, well, it's pretty extensive, and most likely it'll end up in a book at some point in time. So for now, my plan is to share with you in chunks. One thing I do not want to do, I know that there are probably people watching this that know me, that may live in the same area, and I am not going to name names, name entities. I don't feel the need to do that in my situation. And so I will share things in chunks and leave out dates and some names and things like that to, um, you know, inquiring minds want to know. And I will give the information that I feel is appropriate to those inquiring minds. So, anyway, that was just a side note. Um, Today, I'd like to share some just a brief yet huge part of the emotional and spiritual abuse that I suffered. I was involved in several churches, several ministries. I've been married a few times. Marriages have included addicts, narcissists, borderline personality disorder. Um, so I have a history of that. In church, let's see, I was born with a tone, and I don't realize that I have a tone in my voice. And I was also sort of born with this like resting, bitch face, pardon my language. And I don't know. I heard you need to get that look off your face, watch that tone. Why are you mad? I got that a lot and never really understood what that was about because I am who I am. And I have a BS meter that, like no other. And trust me, if I am mad, I will tell you that I am mad. And to be misunderstood and accused of things that weren't true put me in a position of not trusting who I was, not liking who I was, feeling like I needed to just get so many things under control within me. And, the tone of my voice, which I don't hear. Maybe I'm tone deaf. I can't carry a tune. If anybody knows anything about that, leave a comment. Let me know. I'd love to learn. I do have a couple of friends who also have tones, and they are tone deaf. So I do believe that there is something to that. And maybe we should all start a club like the tone people. Anyway, little humor there. Um, but yeah, being misunderstood and accused of things sort of put me in a position of feeling like I needed to explain myself and defend myself. And that is not healthy. And that is something that I still actually battle with today. And when I don't give an explanation for something, then, oh man, I battle with that because it was burned in me. Well, you have to give a reason. You have to. And the reality is no, I don't. I don't. And if I choose to, that's okay. But I I don't need to defend my tone or if I'm concentrating or trying to see and I have that like look on my face, it doesn't mean that I'm angry. You can ask, are you angry? I'll tell you. Trust me. You can ask the people closest to me about whether or not they know when I'm angry. Um, anyway, I feel like I got off on a rabbit trail. And let's get back on track. So I have a tone. I am a very strong, outspoken woman with a BS meter like no other. I was born with a strong sense of justice and right and wrong. And if something is not right, I have no problem saying it's not right. And I am also a very real person. I'm very authentic. And I've heard that from so many of my friends and people that I've met throughout the years. The one thing they do say is, you're just real. And I love that about you. I love that you're just who you are. And so keep all of that in mind as I begin to share with you a little bit of my story. So those of you that have been in the church know that as a woman, those things are not really they're not really permissive. They're not really accepted. Definitely not invited into the church setting or the church atmosphere. So I was really sort of just not able to be myself in most churches, and it created this sort of I call it like a division within me, because I was not able to express myself. I wasn't able to be me. I was constantly feeling like, is my tone okay? Am I smiling okay? Like, what are people thinking? And do I say something? Do I not say something? Did I say the right thing? Why don't I want to go to, women's dessert functions? I'm not a big sweet person. Is that wrong? I was constantly just questioning myself. And I'm also a leader, and women leading in church, that's not good. And so I'm also a great follower too. Put me with a great leader and I have no problem following. And I think that is part of being a good leader, is also being able to follow. And so in several churches, people come to me for advice, and that just has always happened. That's just my makeup. I just have that about me. And giving advice, and I'm a coach. I've been a coach for a long time. I've always wanted to help people heal. So healing is it's just something that is in my DNA. And so those parts of me, and in the church, people would come to me for prayer and things like that. Okay, so being a strong woman with a tone, who you can definitely tell what I'm thinking by the look on my face, and being that woman in sort of a man's world. And I'm not saying every church or ministry that I was involved in was this way, because it wasn't. I've been in ministry with some men who were perfectly fine with that, but for the most part. So when I would want to create a group or something to help people, it was always shot down. Why don't you just help in children's church? Well, I will tell you, I have been in a room of in prison with a lot of men who committed some, horrible crimes, and in a, high level security prison. And I was not afraid at all. I was fine in there. You put me in a room with a bunch of toddlers and I am scared, and you will most likely find me drooling in a corner. Children, they just are over, like, they just, part of it, them scares me, a bunch of them. Like, I love my kids, I love my grandkids, I love kids, but put me in a group with them and I just want to run away from them. So that's just, again, part of who I am. And so being a woman in church, why didn't you just help out in children's ministry? And I did when my kids were little, because I believe that if you have children, then you're going to put them in Sunday school or programs, then you volunteer in that. For one, I want to know what's going on with my kids. And for two, like, it's not somebody else's responsibility to take care of my children. So, but after all that was done, why didn't you just help out? Why didn't you just attend a Bible study in the middle of the day? I was single, I was working. And even when I was married, I was working or had other things going on. And so, that wasn't always feasible. Plus, I had my own thing going on, my own study and relationship with God going on. And so, it was just heard all the time, like, well, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do, I ran a bookstore in the church, let's, they let me greet at one place, which was great. I love like meeting and greeting people, and all that was fun. But, it just wasn't like, they just took away from who I was. And so what that did to me was I started to feel like there was something horribly wrong with me because of this. And that what was wrong with me, that my greatest desire as a woman in the church wasn't to be a part of the children's ministry or the toddler ministry, or want to attend the ladies events and the ladies Bible studies and all of that. Women's ministry events, they bored me, honestly. Like, the guys got to go camping and outdoor stuff, and women just sat and ate dessert and, quite honestly, sat around and gossiped. And that's not my thing. If I want to sit around and eat dessert, I could do that at home or at coffee with a friend, or I'm not a big dessert person anyway. So I just started to feel like something was horribly wrong with me as a woman, as a Christian. There were times when I was accused of being rebellious or in sin. I just needed to be more submissive and quiet, like pretty much who I am in my DNA, God created me to be, just wasn't right or acceptable. And so I just started losing parts of me, just piece by piece, by piece, by piece. And it affected me on many different levels. And I didn't even realize the extent of that until much later, because thankfully I am strong and I am outspoken, and I do know my God. And I also really, I'm stubborn, and I don't take crap from people. I mean, I took it, obviously, because, these leaders and the elders and the pastors and, all these people in charge, I grew up learning to respect my elders and respect people in authority. And these people were in so-called authority. I actually gave them authority. Some demanded authority, and they demand the respect. And so you give that, and there's like a level of trust and distrust. Everything in you is, red flag, bells are going off, your gut's telling you this is not right. In your mind, your head, you're just like, this is not right. There's injustice here. But then you're also hearing from the pulpit that, don't trust your heart, don't trust your emotions. Your heart's wicked, and, you can't trust, you just need to listen. And they speak on behalf of God. I'm not sure sometimes I really wonder which God because I know it's not my God. It's not the God in my Bible. It's a very religious, icky, mean, have to, kind of just a weird thing. Oppressive is a good word. And so that split, you're just, because you feel like, okay, well, these people know God more, better than I do, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be in these positions. And so there's something wrong with me. There has to be a place in me, in my heart, that's bad. Because I wasn't raised in a Christian home. And so, that voice creeps in. Well, maybe I just didn't learn these things growing up, even though I was raised, you respect your elders and you don't talk back, and things like that. I was also very independent, and probably more independent than most kids. And so I learned a lot of things the hard way. And I still do. I learned a lot of things the hard way. But being in that and serving under that and wanting, you go to church because you want to improve your life, right? You want God to be happy with you. You want people, your church family, you want the elders and the pastor, you want people to be happy with you. You want people to like you. That's just human nature, right? And so you begin to think like there's something just terribly wrong with me. And it created this division within me and just this constant battle. Like there's something so wrong with me, but yet I couldn't fix it. And I would pray and it just wouldn't fix it. And, it just continued. And this happened in several churches. And people were still, they're coming to me for prayer and for advice and things like this. And so that just, it creates this confusion within you. Well, if I'm so terrible, then how can I be helping these people? And yet just your gut, like things just weren't right. And in some churches, I voiced my opinion as I grew stronger and weaker all at the same time. That also happens because you reach this point of, for me, just being irritated and agitated, and you just get angry for various reasons. You really don't even know. And so at some point I gave in, I did the women's things and, I just did. I just sucked it up thinking something was wrong with me. And at some point, I'll get fixed. And it was just this constant thing and just this constant like level of stress in my body. And I was sick all the time and I was just exhausted all the time. And I really didn't know what was wrong with me. And at one point I was working as a district sales manager. My kids were little. And so I just thought it was my job. It was a high pressure job, but I did well there. But then I'd go, I'd have these like great moments, but then I'd go to church and I would just feel like ick. And I didn't even really want to go. But then they tell you, oh, if you don't want to go, good thing you came because you're supposed to be here. The enemy's just wants to keep you away. And what's the other one? Or God has something special for you today. There's so many different things that, and I'm not discounting that, God does speak through other people. But God doesn't beat you up through other people. God doesn't create division within you. God wants, he gave you this amazing heart and he created you for who you are. He created all of this in me and it was just like squished and just beat up. And so that's just a little bit of what happened to me. And it happened on many different levels. Some were very subtle. Others were much more dramatic, where I was in meetings and things. Some were ministry situations, and some were church situations. So that's a little bit about some of the abuse that I went through. And I was in several meetings, and I took a lot of verbal beatings and a lot of being beat over the head with the Bible, so to speak. And of course, a lot of things were taken out of context. And I'm going to get to the bottom of the things, get to the truth and the heart of the matter. That's just also a part of who I am. So you can't pull the wool over my eyes for very long. Anyway, if you can relate to that, just shoot me a comment. If you have any questions about that, if that resonates with you, please let me know, because I am doing this to help others. And we're all on a different journey, and I'm not perfect. I'm not completely healed from everything, but I have been through a lot of healing, and I've also been through a ton of trauma and abuse. And so it's my turn to help others come out of it and to be restored and to live life and to be healthy. Because when there's division going on within your body, it creates what we call dis-ease and inflammation and anxiety and depression. And, you can't be divided within you. You can't have that within yourself, within your thoughts and your physical body. And, I developed like aches and pains, and my hormones were a mess. Migraines were like through the roof at that time. And thought I had an ulcer at one point. And a lot of health issues going on. So it does affect you. And it affects you mind, body, and spirit. And it's almost like pieces of you fall away. And that's not okay. It really isn't okay. And thankfully, a lot of those pieces have been brought back together in love. And so now it's my turn to help people like me, to help you, and we can all do this together. So I love you. I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day. And you are valuable. You are loved. And wherever you are at is okay. I'll see you next time.